Field of 68 Best Bet show presented by our fine sponsor at BetRivers. Before doing anything, please remember to subscribe to the channel. That's on YouTube. The like button is conveniently located at the bottom of that browser. Please press that delicately or smash and break your keyboard. Either way, it works. It gives us that subscription, and you will always be plugged in with our great content, as well as the rest of the great content we have coming out at Field of 68 all day, every day. Jim Kai, I missed your beautiful mugs. Well, I guess I missed your beautiful mugs 2 days ago on the show. That was my second unexcused absence of the season. I sincerely apologize. But Matty Maui is no longer. That alter ego has been buried 10 feet under. I'm back in Chicago. Kai, you were at Mizzou this weekend. Jim, you were plugged in with college hoops in the desert. Different eyeballs from different vantage points. Let's discuss what we learned. Jim, I'm going to you first, man. Tell us about that NBA caliber game in the desert between the Dukies and the Gonzagas.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Those teams are incredible. I watched a lot of live basketball this week, and that was a different sport. Like I went from Notre Dame, Texas A&M late Wednesday night. It was the last one I'd seen before it. And then in person to that was like, whoa, these two teams, what's happening? Notre Dame gets to play Duke this year. Have a lot of fun. I do think Duke is a little bit of not bipolar, but like there's a different Duke team when they're playing Gonzaga or Kentucky than when they're playing Gardner-Webb or somebody like that. Like it's just kind of a focus, and the degree they can get to is so high, but I don't know how consistently they're going to reach that this year. So basically when they're playing a huge game, you got to treat them a little bit differently, I think, than when they're just playing like a normal. I'm curious to see how they do in their early ACC road games, Matt.
Yes.
If that team is mega locked in, or if they have the same foibles that some Duke teams do in early ACC play.
Yeah, we saw them sort of sleepwalk through a couple of those non-con games. I mean, they won every one, and the final scores, the results don't look that bad. The one to Campbell was a little bit perplexing, but Campbell's kind of a tricky, the
like
Princeton style offense. Yeah, right.
Round.
It's kind of a kryptonite matchup on a back-to-back. But anyway, Kai, we saw Duke at their best. They were phenomenal. Anything you learned while you were in Como, as you cool kids call it?
Well, Matt, I saw a significantly worse game. You could argue it wasn't the same sport as Duke Gonzaga, because I was in person at Wichita State, Mizzou. One of the worst basketball games I've ever seen in person. Neither team could do anything on offense. It was a brick fest. It was just terrible to watch, Matt. No students there. Obviously with Thanksgiving and with Mizzou being at Arkansas for football, it wasn't good. My Tigers lost. Jim and my Tigers lost. Wasn't great, Matt. I would rather watch Duke and Gonzaga in person. I won my best bet, Jim. You're right. I emotionally hedged, took Wichita State. Even that 10-point margin or whatever it was at the end, 6 points, not indicative of how bad Mizzou played that game.
Yeah, no comment. Mizzou's not a good basketball team. I think the rest of the viewers are well aware. We beat them over the head with that drum. I'll just quickly get to mine. I watched a little bit on my drive home. Louisville, Maryland, two teams in very different directions right now. The Terps, they've had multiple opportunities to sort of shake this monkey off their back, had a couple of close calls against anywhere from decent to good mid-majors. We saw them lose at home to George Mason, and I thought they were pretty handily dominated by Louisville for most of that game. They made a couple of runs, and the score was close late, but the Cardinals looked like the better team pretty emphatically, and this is a damning sign for a squad that a lot of people had penciled in top 15 preseason. On the other side of the coin, the Cardinals, one of my stubborn believers preseason, they're starting to kind of figure it out. They took care of Mississippi State, and then Maryland was following that up with an impressive effort. I think the Cardinals, they're sitting at 40 or 39th right now in KenPom. This to me has top 25, top 20 upside. I will just stay on that hill until it burns me, but just impressive to see the Cardinals start to maybe flip that gear into fourth, Jim.
Yeah, I was not terribly impressed with Maryland in the Richmond game either. They just caught fire late. Hakeem Hart had made like 3 threes all year and went 4 for 5 from deep in that game, including one at the end of the shot clock where I'm not sure it was in his hands. He just kind of reached out and flipped it, and it was a perfect swish. So yeah, I'm a little concerned about Maryland as well. Surprised to see Louisville be that emphatically better than 2 power conference teams on neutral courts after their weird home struggles. They kind of had similar home struggles to Maryland, to be quite honest, but then Louisville was much better on a neutral floor.
Yeah, I think Louisville is just a team that's going to improve, and Maryland has a lot of issues to sort out at the moment. Would tread lightly if you're looking to back them, or like in a buy low situation, so to speak. All right, let's get to some games. The big MTE still going on currently is the one down in Florida, the ESPN Events Championship. 4 games taking place today. One currently already underway. We're going to make a last-second swap-a-roo in our outline. North Texas Drake.
No one knows that.
No one knows, right? No one knows. Okay, but hey, I want to give them the entire behind-the-scenes footage. I want to mention it, Kai, because we're going to endorse North Texas, so I want to just have a hindsight way to go us take there, so the folks know that we would have provided the right wisdom on that side.
Yeah.
So kind of a convenient 2020 narrative there. But the headliner, the championship. Let's start off with Belmont versus Dayton. The story here, Jim, is obviously Dayton stunning Kansas. Wild comeback and a fireworks display of random scoring down the stretch. I was completely confounded by a lot of those buckets that Dayton got late. Here's where I stand on this, Jim. I don't give any demerits to Kansas, I guess. I thought Dayton just had a perfect storm of events that, manifested in this awesome upset win. The buzzer beater that hit like 5 spots the rim was a microcosm of just this, I don't know. To me, it was a voodoo magic outlier game. I don't think Dayton's good, and I think Kansas is really good. Do you any other takeaways from that game?
Matt, I'm going to give you a guess on what the shot quality score was for that game.
Oh, I didn't check at that. Kansas by 10. I have no idea.
Kansas by 15.
Okay.
So it was very much like a shot-making festival for Dayton. Games, shots that don't usually go in. Like, they were making scoop, underhand, shovel layups under David McCormick's armpit. Like, it was lucky stuff. And you know what? Dayton Flyers fans are probably thrilled to be that lucky entering this event, concerned they would go 0-3, and now they're sitting in the title game. But yeah, I probably lean towards Belmont here. I don't know if Dayton can keep the magic going. It almost hurts that they had a day off, Kai. Like, you don't get to ride that wave into the title game. And the Bruins have just been like straight up solid. They've been really good. They struggled a little bit early in the year. We saw the Furman game barely pulled that one out. They were dominated by Ohio, but they're hitting their stride. They're playing through Muzinski inside. He's been terrific. I think they can excel again here. This is a nice battle of front lines, mobile front courts too, with the way Dayton can play. But I just don't think the Dayton guard play lasts and the shot making lasts the way it has.
No, and it's weird that Dayton's kind of finally woken up. I mean, clearly there's some luck in these games, but 2 straight power wins, Miami and Kansas, after those 3 straight bye game losses. I say luck because Kansas 4 for 19 from 3, Miami 4 for 20 from 3. KU was also 9 for 20 from the free throw line.
Yeah.
So I'm leaning towards Matt and saying, I'm not really paying attention to this game that Dayton won over Kansas. They still had 20 turnovers. They did grab almost 50% of their misses. That's pretty huge. I don't think they can do the same against Belmont necessarily, but it's certainly a stat that popped out in that game against Kansas. I don't think Dayton can rely on cold shooting again from Belmont, a team that I think is going to make shots against them. So I will lean towards Belmont in this game. Spreads come down, I believe.
Yeah,
it opens up around 4 or 5. Now it's down to like 3-ish.
It's sitting at 3, I think, pretty much everywhere. Opener, 3. I think, was closer to 4, depending on what book you deem as the true opener.
Yep.
But I'm with you guys. I lean Belmont here. I was very impressed with the Bruins against Iona. I know Iona was coming off that awesome win against Alabama, so you could argue that maybe that was a letdown spot for the Gales. But just Ben Shepherd's the guy for Belmont that really impresses me. Super athletic wing, can get to the rim and make plays. He's Belmont scores a lot through the offense and their execution, but Shepherd's kind of that next level type athlete that I think sometimes the Belmont Bruins teams lack, that could give them that sort of extra bump that pushes them into closer to top 75 at large caliber teams, as opposed to just fringe outside top 100 OVC title team, if that makes sense. So in a nutshell, that caliber of team versus a Dayton team that I think is just not very good. They lost 3 bye games, for crying out loud. I like the Bruins here.
Murdered in one of them.
Not just be just like actually destroyed at home. So, but again, the pendulum could swing both ways. There is Dayton now going to be, is that a boost of confidence that's going to carry them into a streak going forward, or was that just a fluke? I think we lean toward the latter and the Bruins in that one. Next up here, the 3rd place game for the bronze medal, the Jayhawks, stunning disbelief. They now have to take out some revenge on the Gales. The Gales, Kai, had an at-large. I mean, now we can't say the Belmont loss is going to doom their at-large hopes, but with a win like Alabama, with that type of notch on their belt, Rick Pitino will be fighting for every single one he can get. There's no reason to rest or hold anything back in these non-con games, especially with the MAC that looks fairly vulnerable this year. What do you make of this matchup here? Do you think Kansas comes out with some anger and puts it on the Gales, or are the Gales a feisty dog here?
Yeah, I'm pretty split on this one. I see both sides, man. It should be a David McCormick day. I don't think Nelly Jr. Joseph can handle him inside, but I do think Pitino is going to double him. So KU shooters need to be ready, need to actually hit more shots than 4 for 20, 4 for 19 that they were against Dayton. Jalen Wilson needs to find his footing. Only 1 point on 1 for 4 shooting, 2 turnovers against Dayton. He was basically invisible, projected to be one of their best players. Some say maybe even best player in the preseason alongside McCormick and Igbaji. So him getting back in the fold is huge for them. Yeah, like I said, Jim, one side I see Iona hanging around. They're well coached. They're obviously very talented. The other side I see angry KU, a team with far more talent, even though Iona is very talented, and a team with far more physicality.
Yeah, I'm pretty split too. I want to back Kansas, but I just think Pitino, and he has a day to prepare. That day off of rest, I think, does matter. Elijah Joyner's been pretty banged up, and getting him an extra day of rest is pretty huge. He's arguably their best player, along with Junior Joseph. And McCormick, Matt, you kind of said he's been like a spaz almost, like in the paint. He's turning it over a little more than he needs to, and he just doesn't have the same patience of moves. He's not getting to that right hook the way he usually does. Kind of getting pushed around. I mean, he's shooting less than 42% from the field, and he is like a paint taker. That's it. So very concerning out of him. And Kai also mentioned the 3-point shooting. So yeah, I would probably just stay away from this one. I'm not entirely sure what to think here, Matt.
Yeah, I'm a little bit torn on this one as well. Jimmy, the McCormick thing is very concerning. Like I a lot of my KU stock was rooted in the assumption that McCormick was going to be a Big Ten Player of the Year caliber guy, sort of an Azubuike light, a Doak light. Sorry, Big 12 Player of the Year caliber. I forgot what conference this team's in. No conference has the right number of names in their titles anymore. It's quite concerning. What I'm looking at here is the total. They get bet up from 142 to 145.5. People seeing some up and down, potentially a faster paced game than what Iona did to Alabama, which was slow them down very effectively. I kind of think Pitino is too smart as a coach when it comes to these underdog situations. I don't know if he wants to get into a track meet and play a high possession game with Kansas, even though we know they have the ability to pressure at times if they want to and be effective in that. I just don't think that's the route to competing and or beating KU here. So I kind of disagree with the early money on that. I'm almost like the under at the current price, 145.5. So just a totally in that one if you're looking to get some action on one of the few, I guess, marquee games of today's slate.
Felt the same way, Matt. I was shocked to see that go up 3.5 points.
Very odd indeed. All right, the 5th place game, Alabama. Shocked to see the Crimson Tide playing for 5th, but that's where they are. That's how the bracket shook out. They got Juwan Gary back last game, playing his best ball of the year, a key interior piece, Kai, for the Crimson, which sort of have some issues up front. If they have a weakness, that's where it is. It's been kind of a revolving doors at the 4 and the 5 positions. I hyper focus on that because that's a key return to see Gary playing close to his best form. I think Bama is a formal favorite, but Miami, Florida, as bad as they've been, they are usually better as an underdog. Larinaga has been a guy that can sort of execute methodically, claw against better teams, even with injuries in recent years, not notably last season. Do you think this number is too high? Currently sitting at 9 right now. So some early money liking the Canes here.
I kind of think Alabama rolls. I was surprised to see Miami beat North Texas, which says a lot. I mean, they're down 14.5. I don't think Miami's very good this year. Program's in bad state. And then Alabama, that Iona upset was reminiscent of its UCLA upset, right? 5 for 17 from 3, 13 for 25 from the free throw line.
Gotta make free throws, Tide.
And Davison was 4 for 8 and Quinterly was 3 for 7. That's their 2 best guards are missing 50% of their free throws. That doesn't happen. They win Iona. We're not talking about this game against Miami. So I kind of think they roll here, Jim. I'm not excited about Miami at all this season. Just think they're kind of in a bad program right now.
Yeah, I felt the same way about Miami, and that comeback against North Texas in the second half really bugged me. Yeah. I think North Texas was up 12 at halftime, and
14,
Miami scored on 14. Miami scored on 10 straight possessions at one point. And we're obviously seeing North Texas's defense much better today. Perhaps the Miami comeback then was a little bit fluky. They got hot for sure from the outside, made some shots. I would lean towards Alabama as well. They don't have the same make 9 threes in 12 minutes type of upside that they did last year. I think Petty was a big part of that. But it's still a pretty strong squad. The defense has been, I think, better than I expected. especially with Gary back. Matt mentioned him. I think he's pivotal. Like his on-off splits last year were massive. When he was out there, their defense is a lot better. So I'm going to give the slight edge to Alabama here, especially the numbers come down a little bit. I think it opened double digits. It's down to 9. So at 9, yeah, I would lean towards the Tide.
I think I lean Tide as well. Jimmy mentioned some of the defensive components. That's where my head's at when I'm looking at Alabama. They're not forcing a lot of turnovers this season. Their 2-point percentage interior defense has been shaky at best. Now, a lot of that is attributable to the revolving doors of injuries, rotational shakeups they've had in that front line. Gary should help that. Badeko's been better than I expected, the freshman big. But Keon Ellis and Darius Miles, those wing pieces that was really the core, the secret sauce of last year's squad, with Herb Jones and even John Petty. Jim, you mentioned great offensively, but just as important on the defensive end as well. So right now they're sort of living on a prayer. They're giving up. So their opposing 3-point shots or shooting percentage is 19th in the country. Teams are only making 62% of their foul shots against them. I worry about some regression monster coming back to bite the Crimson Tide going forward. That said, yep.
Nate Oates has consistently been awesome in 3-point defense.
Yes, I agree.
They were 10th last year, 71st his first year at Alabama, and 9th his last year at Buffalo. So like it seems like it's very consistent the way they challenge, the way they hound you on the perimeter.
Very fair. And this year that rate's it's not as good as it has been, but they've also played a lot of 3-point trigger happy teams. That's definitely skewed by their opponents, I think, to date. Anyway, broader takeaway, Alabama's defense is what I'm watching to see what they're going to be going for long-term. In this match against Miami, I do think there is some value here on the Tide at -9. All right, last game here. Again, a last-second outline shakeup here. We're going to Eastern Michigan, DePaul. Kai hates when I give people behind the scenes of how the process of the show and this program comes together.
There's no context for everyone else.
Well, they like seeing how he scrambled this morning to make a last-second schedule. It was a very courageous effort by you, so you deserve that shout-out. And I'm going to you for this breakdown, Kai. DePaul, Chicago's hometown team. According to some. Has DePaul been good? I'm sort of trying to understand what DePaul is right now. I think the key thing here, 4-1 against the numbers. So the odds makers hate DePaul. We hate DePaul. I'm not convinced they're any solid basketball team, but they are putting results on the board. They are raking in returns for their betting backers. Kai, what say you in this matchup against Eastern Michigan? It's been feisty, competitive.
Well, EMU is also 4-1 against the spread. I've been on them every single game. They've been great. I think they're still undervalued. It's going to be up tempo this game. Stan Heath has his Eagles running. Stubbs, who I believe is affectionately called by his Blue Demon faithful, has DePaul running. EMU's offense has been pretty, but they have shooters. They're going to need to shoot against DePaul. DePaul's front line is actually huge this year. Their size in general is huge. Farrakhan, Scott, and McBride, all good shooters, all can score for Eastern Michigan. Both teams are going to look to score in transition. I think it's going to be a lot of points in this game. Not confident in either defense. DePaul should have no problem dominating the paint, getting to the free throw line. I'm kind of hoping EMU can stick within 12. I lean their way in this side.
Yeah, I do too, Kai. To your point, dominating the paint. Eastern Michigan is 309th in 2-point percentage this year. And DePaul is 19th in 2-point percentage defense. Angenda, Yorane front line is vicious.
Massive,
they've got a lot more size with Jones and Brandon Johnson. They did get Jalen Terry back too. One of their point guards, he became eligible last game. Should only help that transition attack. You're right. Stubblefield really has them running. I thought maybe these two would be under teams this year, and it's not even close. Like they're both clearly over teams. A lot of running. Wasn't really expecting that, but I still think this number's a bit high. I'm not all the way in on DePaul quite yet. Maybe I should be. They've been good. They haven't really done anything wrong, but I do think Eastern Michigan is pretty feisty too. Like you mentioned, they're both 4-1 against the spread, covering by around 5 or 6 per game each. So
pretty good.
They've been exceeding expectations to basically the same degree. I will side slightly with EMU here, Matthew.
Yeah, I do as well. And Jimmy, the defensive points on DePaul are well taken. Just the sheer size they have up front. I think that's a sustainable defense. I think you can bet on DePaul playing effective on that end of the floor. The offense will be a little bit of a roller coaster ride. We'll see how Jalen Terry impacts that. Maybe he provides some stability to that backcourt, along with Javon Freeman Liberty, a guy that we really like. So we'll see he's been awesome this year. So we'll see what Stubbs can do. You guys mentioned that total's been bet up from 146 to 149.5. So some are picking up those pace breadcrumbs you guys are putting down. But again, no official side on either side or total for myself. Chat mob, it's time. I know it's a short slate, and I'm sure activity is little to nascent here on the Sabbath. But any questions for the folks? Perhaps some extra board inquiries.
Oh yeah, we got a couple questions rolling in. I'm impressed. Harry R asking if the cover machine Portland continues it against Incarnate Word today. This is a road game, but they've already played 2 games in this gymnasium, so I think giving anything for home is probably generous. And Incarnate Word down a starter, Josh Morgan, pretty important. I would definitely lean towards the Pilots here, Matthew. It has been bet up though quite a bit.
Yeah, it's too high. Love Portland, been back them pretty consistently. I also like Incarnate Word. I haven't liked what they've done so far this year, but the healthy version of this team.
You
don't like Incarnate Word.
I do. I like the idea of what they could be. And we haven't seen it yet. They've had a couple key injuries. Morgan the last 2. Drew Lutz, the rock in their backcourt. I'm a big fan of his game. He's been out. I think missed a few games as well. I'm convinced ICW will be okay, Kai, going forward. I'm just not looking to back them right now.
UIW.
ICW, Incarnate Word.
Is not a separate word. It's not incarnate.
I think the spread's gotten too high, but I'm not backing Incarnate Word.
Yep. Tug Welsh asking about Siena Bucknell, whether Andre Screen is still out for Bucknell. I believe he is. There was a picture of him in a boot on their Cancun trip. And obviously the line movement here, Siena been bet all the way to a favorite after opening +3. Definitely seems to indicate that Mr. Screen is out again. I thought Siena was a lot better last game. Their last 2 efforts really have been stronger than early on when they were really bad. So Kai, I would still lean towards the Saints even as a slight favorite here.
I do too. I was low on Bucknell coming into the year. They've been better than I expected. No Screen is huge. He means everything to their defense, obviously the interior, and they do like to play through him a little bit on offense as well. So I think his absence is enormous. I definitely lean towards the Saints.
Yeah, they're playing through that Timmerman, the young big, and he's just not quite the same degree as the Screen.
It just feels like injury money, Jim. And as we know, injuries don't mean anything. So I would tread lightly if you're looking to make a play on Siena here, just because of the adverse effect on Bucknell, but then also Play Tech and Billups have played the last 2 games, I think, which has been a big boon to why they played a lot better. Siena, that is. So, but the line's got bent down too low. It's got close to a pick 'em, I believe.
Siena's going to win.
They better win.
Yeah, hopefully. Tinley Monk asking about James Madison at Florida Atlantic. I'm a fan of James Madison. I think generally we all are, especially like relative to these 2 teams in a vacuum. Our friend Jordan Majeski pointed out that James Madison has just been like in Florida for like a week and a half now. And I don't, whether they're bored of that or what. Their last game, they had a terrible second half, like just horrendous, basically gave up a lead and quit, it seemed like. But I still like them a little bit. Road favorite here, or it's right around Pick'em -1.
Yeah, -1.
I would lean towards James Madison. I think they're the better team, and hopefully they show that today, because man, that second half last game, it was stinky. I didn't like it at all.
I love JMU, but their shooting's been terrible this year, and I don't get it. They're 27% from 3, like 317th in the country, and they shoot a lot of threes.
Yep.
Which is normally good, and they have good guards and presumably good shooters, but haven't found the bottom of the net yet. If they ever start hitting, they're going to be borderline top 100, I think.
Agree. I think it's impressive that they played so well despite not hitting shots. In general, it's just a team that's going to have a lot of wide, volatile swings game to game because they shoot so many threes. They pressure you. And we've seen already in game, they've had some big second half comebacks themselves. In the last game, the pendulum swung in their face, unfortunately. So just a team we like, but know there's there'll be some ups and downs, some sharp ups and downs with that squad this year.
Yep. Volatility. All right. Last one. We'll go back to the outline for the chat. We do have Wofford and Georgia coming up on the outline as well as Villanova LaSalle. So those are en route. But Eastern Kentucky, Radford, got a question here. I think Eastern Kentucky's still a little undervalued, guys. They've been pretty darn solid. They got Braxton Beverly back. He came off the bench last game, the NC State transfer. That's huge. Radford's guards are a little shaky, and you can't have shaky guards against EKU's pressure like that. That's just death. So I have a slight lean towards Eastern Kentucky there. I actually haven't seen what the line has done today.
6.
Yeah, it's got a lot of money on EKU, Jim. So people are backing you.
Yeah, I don't recommend it at 6.5. That's dangerous. It's a little high. At that point, I'd probably stay away.
Yeah, agreed. Radford hasn't impressed me. I saw him play Furman Kai. No. Didn't like what I saw. Very ugly.
Me neither. I think EKU probably wins by double digits.
Hey, I hope so, Mr. McEwen.
Okay.
All right. That is it. Let's go back to the outline. Kedrick, Washington, E&M. We got your questions coming up later.
Yeah, we're going out to the West Coast, well, I guess the mountain range for some conference play, Kai. Yes.
Yeah, wow.
A conference game in November.
I don't like it.
Stanford at Colorado. I am torn on these early conference things. I guess I like having some notable games early in the season, but we've had plenty of good non-con showdowns. I'd rather just have cooler non-con games at this point and then keep conference for the dessert part of the schedule, if you will. It's too the Pac-12 has not been good this year. It's been the putrid 12, the old nicknames, jokey jokes we want to rekindle for this conference are now valid again. And Stanford and Colorado are no exceptions. I'm not sure who I've been more disappointed in. I think Colorado has been slightly worse than my expectations relative to the preseason barriers that we set or barometers that we set. I lean the Cardinal. Numbers been bet down. What are you looking at here?
Yeah, both teams have been just atrocious, just gross. Stanford 70-89 in KenPom, Colorado 35-55. Stanford was crushed by two top 100 teams. Their best win is at home against Tarleton. They're both 1-5 against the spread. Colorado lost to Carbondale. They have no wins in top 150. They went to OT with Montana State and Duquesne. It's just not good. Both teams' strengths are in the paint here. Stanford's defense, though, Jim, has been a sieve. 322nd in 2-point field goal percentage defense. Baylor didn't help that. Obviously, that's probably skewing it somewhat. I'm leaning Colorado. I think they're the better team, plus that home court altitude first conference game. -4. I definitely lean towards the Buffs.
Yeah, I'm with you. 4 is low. That's kind of a punchback situation for me against a little bit of steam. Haas is 1-3 at Colorado against the spread so far in his tenure. And even going further back, Stanford is like 1-6 against the spread in their last 7. On the road at Colorado, the mountain trip has not treated them well. They're not covering by an average of like 6 points a game. Like it's not close. Their only cover in that span was by 1, just snuck inside the number. So I would definitely lean towards Colorado. Stanford has just both have been bad, but Stanford has unimpressed me more, if that makes sense.
Yeah. The theme with both teams is that they lack guard play. I think the big reason why they've not been good. We like both front lines, I think, but the guards don't quite live up to their end of the bargain. Jim, the mountain trip splits you mentioned are interesting. I guess it's a slightly different scenario here in that you're playing the game in November. You don't have the don't have the Utah trip either before or after. Maybe that helps if you're trying to peel back those layers. Yeah. I don't know. It's just two kind of unappetizing teams that I don't really want to watch nor back in any circumstance. So it's a hard stay away for me. Sorry for the womp womp anticlimactic lack of enthusiastic endorsement on this game. But let's stay out west, though. We're going Fresno State at California. Cal, Jim, another Pac-12 team that we're just sort of rolling our eyes at. We know what Cal is. It's Cal.
They're actually good against the spread. They're 4-2.
It's shocking. I don't really buy it, Jim. And Fresno, a team that's had my heart for 3 years and broken it pretty much every year on repeat, looked good at times in that weird MTE down there in southern LA. Orlando Robinson's a beast on the glass. What are you looking at here in this matchup?
I'm sure I'm stealing this point from Kai because I bet we looked at the same thing, but Fresno State lives at the free throw line. They're second in the country in free throw rate. That is how they get points. Jordan Campbell has been there a ton. Orlando Robinson gets there a ton. And Cal fouls a lot. They are 280th in defensive free throw rate, so they will put you there. So as long as Fresno State knocks down shots, I think they win this outright. The problem is Jamal Baker has been out. He's probably their best perimeter shooter. He's a guy that stretches the floor, gives some space to Robinson inside. Without him, that's a little dicier, and Cal can clog the paint and kind of muck this game up a little bit. But I definitely lean towards Fresno, Kai. It's just, as Matt mentioned, trusting them is difficult.
Trusting either team is difficult. Cal had Seton Hall on the ropes in an ugly game. They led by 6 with 10 to play. No Miles Cale in that game, but still, not that bad for a California team that is usually terrible. Fresno, big win against Santa Clara, like Jim mentioned, but they struggled with Idaho and Pepperdine. Right? 2 teams you don't really need to struggle with. Big matchup.
No one should be struggling with Idaho right now.
No. Orlando Robinson versus Andre Kelly is the matchup. Advantage Orlando, I think, in my opinion. Fresno's going to force you to be shooters. Cal's a couple ones, but they do like to play through Kelly a lot. I don't think it's going to be very fruitful for them. I too, Jim, lean Fresno in this one. I doubt there's much home court.
Yeah, almost no travel at all.
Right.
All right. I guess the one thing for Cal is that they've been playing that Quani at the wing on occasion. So they have a really big front line. Like they go 6'9", 6'9", 6'9", a decent amount, which is sort of what you need to do to negate Fresno's main offensive, or I guess secondary source of scoring on offense, which is crashing the glass, getting second and third shot opportunities. This one comes down to how the game's called, right? If Fresno can get to the line, get Cal off balance, get in the bonus, sort of chip away, death by 1,000 paper cuts, then Fresno has value. But it just feels like a game where you're going to be relying on the whistle too much to get involved in for me. So I'm going to stay away. Total's 122.5. So, I mean, if you're, not good.
More difficult for a road team to rely on the whistle, maybe.
Yep,
also, I will amend, it is a almost 3-hour drive from Fresno to Berkeley. Thank you, Google Maps, for.
But no one's going to be there, right?
That's true.
Ooh, the Berkeley native, Kyle, they're coming out strong today. That's what I heard. Sources are telling me.
They're all going to watch the 49ers play somewhere.
Yeah, there you go.
No, good point. I guess there's a few bigger games in town there. All right, our second to last game on the outline. Mentioned it in the chat, Mob teased it. Georgia is hosting Wofford. Kai, Georgia's bad. The question is how bad? Can Georgia possibly be an underdog to Wofford at home? On one hand, yes, they've done nothing this year to prove that they're worthy of being favored over a SoCon team. On the other hand, this team does have some talent. I know you don't think it's much, but there is some. It's still a power conference team. I kind of like Georgia at anything up to -1. And this feels like when I backed Pitt early in the year and I endorsed it and then basically told myself I would never recommend such a foolish play to our listeners again. I am on Georgia. I am not. This is sort of a don't do as I say type of thing.
Yeah, they opened as a dog. That's just so embarrassing for this team. They're now -1, Matt. It's weird. So Messiah Jones out for the year for Wofford. It's a shame. He's a key starter for them. Market didn't really seem to care about this. Right. The line barely moved. KenPom has this Wofford -1, and it was there for a long time. So Market doesn't really care about this because Georgia probably is the better team, or excuse me, Wofford probably is the better team. But Georgia's played a tough schedule. They've been a little chippier than I thought against these really, really good power conference teams. I don't really see either team scoring very well, Jim. I kind of lean towards the under. Georgia needs to attack the rim against Wofford. They're 246th in field goal allowance percentage at the rim. And then, Jim, fun fact, Aaron Cook leads the country in assist rate, 49%. So maybe they do have a little bit of talent. Hey, Aaron Cook, an afterthought at Gonzaga. Best player for Georgia.
Pretty good to lead the country in assist rate with those teammates.
Pretty good.
Right.
There's not a ton of finishers and shooters on that squad. Kai, I think the Messiah Jones thing is enormous. I'm surprised how little the market
100%.
factored it in. A couple stats. They had him when they played at Clemson and nearly won. That final margin of 8 is deceiving. And he had 16 points, 5 boards, and a block. And then they didn't have him against South Carolina, and they were basically not in that game. Like they got kind of rolled in the second half. It's early, so on-off stats mean a lot less. But per Hoop Explorer, they're plus 32.7 per 100 with him on the court. And without him, they're negative 4.9. So like a 37-point spread between with Jones and without. And I know it's early, but that's just kind of take that to mean how important he is to this team. He's the only real high major athlete. They need him against an opponent like Georgia. They might not need him as badly in SoCon play, but I think he matters quite a bit today. I'm with you guys leaning towards Georgia. I just don't know if I trust them enough to back them.
Yeah, what shocked me is BJ Mack has been a revelation for Wofford. He's a former South Florida transfer. Some folks may remember that name. Was kind of hurt a little bit last year, didn't do much. He's come on strong, and they play through their bigs in that offense a lot. That's why guys like Messiah Jones are so important, because they're versatile, low block scorers, but they can also make passes, sort of that prototype that we saw with Cam Jackson. I'm just not sure Matt can really carry the freight. I think this injury will catch up with him eventually, if it hasn't already. And that's kind of why I'm backing Georgia here. And going forward, I worry that Wofford will start to slip a little bit relative to what we've seen them start. Nothing else on this one. Final game in the outline. We got a Philly 5 showdown. Nova, LaSalle. I have a take in this one. I'm curious what my colleagues think, though. We have not discussed this behind the scenes. Kai, it's a big number for a Philly 5 game, depending on who the opponent is. I guess some opponents are better than others, obviously, but Nova's been awesome. No one disputes that. LaSalle hasn't been terrible. So to me, 17.5 feels high. Am I being too nice to my explorers? Tell me why I'm wrong.
Oh, yeah, you're being too nice. First of all, this game should be at the Palestra. It's a shame these games aren't played there anymore. It's at LaSalle. Sure, playing Nova fans going to be there. Matt, all 4 of LaSalle's games this year have been within 5 points. 2 games are in overtime. 4 games have been within 3 points. They've only played 3 teams outside of the top 200. Excuse me, they have played 3 teams outside of the top 200. It's not great. I don't think LaSalle is doing too well this year.
This is a huge step up in class for LaSalle.
I don't think LaSalle is ready for this caliber of opponent. I think it's going to be a domination in favor of Villanova.
We get Demir Cosby-Roundtree back, guys. Who
huge.
We thought he had retired. He was removed from the roster officially in September, I think, but he's going to dress for this one. We don't know how much he's going to play. I guess he's been practicing. It's probably like an emotional lift, to be quite honest. But Matt, both teams have been struggling with the flu. Apparently, Philly has just got it. It is going around.
It's going rampant there in Philly. Wow.
Okay. Longino, the freshman, is out for Nova, and they apparently have 2 others that are playing. We didn't get names on those. The article didn't mention them, but then LaSalle said they've also been dealing with it. So I don't know if that maybe that helps the under where these teams aren't ready to go up and down at all and score efficiently. But I know you have a take, so I will open up the floor for you.
Yeah, I didn't really look at the flu angle much. My handicap, I saw that, Jim. I just sort of ignored it. What I am looking at is the prior matchups between these 2 teams, which is always a slippery slope. No, the rosters are not the same as we saw in 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. The last 4 years, these 2 teams have played each other. It did not play last season. In those 4 matchups, Nova has won by 10, 10, 9, and 7. And Ashley Howard, former Jay Wright assistant, I don't know if it's a Nova or LaSalle's looking in the mirror and they have a better feel for defending Nova and maybe keeping them within check, or it's just like a former assistant Jay Wright doesn't want to run up the score on his old buddy type of thing. These games typically play closer. They're not usually blowouts. I think LaSalle's defense is actually fairly improved this year. Clifton Mordecai, your favorite Indiana transfer, has been a pretty impressive rim protector. They are long. Jim, I know it's Nova light. It's probably Nova very, very light. But it's not light enough to be 18-point dog. So I'm going to take LaSalle here.
I would like to announce that Bob is correct in the chat, and this game is at the Palestra.
Tell the Palestra.
I believe our boy Ken Pump has that incorrect. It is
LaSalle's home.
Officially listed on the LaSalle website.
Gotcha.
At Palestra.
I was relying on Ken Pump, Jim. That's what I get.
Yeah.
I gave 0 for home, so that's
yeah. I would probably lean towards Nova. I should have looked up the splits for the past meetings between these 2, but I just think LaSalle is not great, especially defensively, and Villanova can exploit that.
Well, we shall see. One more round of chat mob questions. Anything new coming through the wire there?
Nothing. Well, there's a few. I got a few. I'm going to throw this to Kai here. You bet against them this weekend.
Oh,
Kendrick Washington wants to know what UConn's ceiling is. How do you feel about the Huskies long term? Do you think the defense eventually takes over for them? The offensive questions too much? What do you think?
I think the ceiling is very high for UConn. I don't think they're top 10 good, maybe top 15 ceiling. I think Auburn's better still, if that's any indication. I would say second in the Big East. I don't think they're going to win the Big East over Villanova.
Yeah, I thought Jordan Hawkins against Auburn was kind of like the
microwave, yes,
potential needle mover. He hit some big shots. He also had a bad turnover that basically sent that game to OT. So it's kind of a give and take when you have a freshman that could be that important. The shooting is not awesome with that team. So a little bit of concern. I would agree, though, second in the Big East. Matt, do you think that's their ceiling? Can they win the Big East? Is it possible?
I think it's possible. They've shot it well this year. I don't know if it's sustainable. I don't think RJ Cole, Tyree Smart, and Jalen Gaffney hold up. I think they're combined like 43%, those 3 this season. And yeah, I think Hawkins could help boost that. Cook is my concern. Only played 5 minutes last game. Didn't see if he was injured or had a setback, but I think he's a key piece. So I'm worried about that sort of coming back to haunt them, even as deep as they are up front.
Yep. All right, Matt, back to you. Ian M wants to know about Merrimack headed to Boston U. This is kind of a big thing for you where it's a 6-point spread. The total is only 122, like really, really low scoring. Do you think the dog hangs around here? We don't know for sure about Walter White for Boston U. He matters. He's been pretty good this year. Missed the Florida State game and they hung around. So have you been too impressed with the Terriers to back Merrimack?
Yes, I have also been fairly impressed with Merrimack as well. This number's, I think, at 5 now, so it's a little too low for me to endure. I was leaning toward Merrimack. It's just Kaya non-conference Merrimack feels like a good bet. I don't have the splits on how well they've been there or how well they've done since bumping up to D1. But just if you don't know how to play against that zone, if you're not familiar against it, I tend to think that first time you see it, little bit of a shell shock, kind of catches teams off guard.
Yeah, I'm scared of Boston. I think they're awesome. Even without White, they're playing well. This is a really good team.
That was my I think I got him like 20-1 to win the Patriot. So I'm a big fan of Boston U. They just got to overcome the Colgate, Matt, the Colgate love.
There it is. That's right.
All right, another one on the extra board, Kai. We've got Dartmouth and Bucknell, Dartmouth and Bryant. This one's been bet up. It was, I think, it opened around 5-ish. It is now 7. Pete asked if that's too many points. I think it's too many now. Not enough for me to step in on Dartmouth, but I liked Bryant at like 4.5 or 5. They were relatively impressive winning at Brown. At 7 though, it's too much for me to bag. 7, even 7.5 in some places. Yeah, that's too much.
Too many points, but I think Bryant's finally going to start playing like the Bryant we expected. Peter Kiss fully back in the lineup. They definitely have another gear they can get to and take care of business against these okay below average type of teams like Dartmouth.
I like the over. It's my 2 cents. Both teams use lots of threes, long misses, easy runouts. I think there's a lot of points in this game.
All righty. Matt, a battle in Florida for you here. North Florida, Florida International. I know you've kind of liked FIU as an under team this year, and North Florida, I think, has gone under several games. The zone slows teams down. Do you see that being the play here?
I'm confused. I watched North Florida try and run up and down with UCLA. I was like, what why are you doing this?
Stop it.
It's just dumb. So I don't know what to make of that. And kind of coming back home, you're right, maybe playing true to their self and their form of the zone, cramping teams tempo defensively. I have no idea. I like FIU, Kai. I just don't like FIU against a really quirky, unique defense, kind of similar to my Merrimack Boston handicap. Just feels like a weird stylistic matchup clash where I can't make sense of it. So I'm going to stay away.
I got no opinion, Matt.
Kai coming in with the hammer.
Bangs gavel.
I got none.
For the record, Ken Pom has this game 1 and it is 5. If you care about such discrepancies.
Well, that's silly.
Quite honestly, I don't care a ton. Yeah, it's been bet up. North Florida's been on a world tour, as pointed out. Tons of bye games, tough schedule. They're coming from Kentucky on Friday night, so that certainly is a disadvantage as well. Yeah, I don't have a side in this one, and I maybe would lean towards North Florida at 5, but it's not a strong take. I believe that is it for the chat. So, Matt, if you want to take us to best bets.
Best bets it is. Kai, you are first up today. Lead us off with a lock. Knox Furious Sunwood.
Well, Matt, SMU is my best bet.
No, don't do this. Wow.
They are.
First half of them or something.
Yeah, they're minus 16.5 right now at BetRivers. I just think Louisiana Monroe is terrible. I think they're the worst team in the Sun Belt, maybe by a good margin. And I think SMU can blow them out. I'm hoping SMU is tired of blowing second half leads. We've certainly taken advantage of a couple of those this year. But this time, I don't think they're going to relinquish it. I think they're going to beat them by 20 plus. So SMU minus 16.5.
Jim, I have no comment. You know where I stand on that opinion.
I
would have endorsed that
first half.
Yeah, that's right. I would have been hugging Kai and endorsing that to the highest praises, but I am over SMU. I am off the Express.
Wow.
The trains left the station.
That's big for you to say.
It is
very big.
Been a 2-year thing for me. That's probably 3-year thing for me at this point. Yeah.
6.
Over that team, Kai. # over that team.
All right.
Jim?
I guess it's me. Hey, Matthew.
Yes, sir.
Let me get the current line on my best bet here. I'm going with North Dakota plus 17 at Kansas State. I'm not a big fan of K-State as a big favorite. That just seems like a lot of points for them to give away. They couldn't cover against mega shorthanded Omaha, and Omaha then went and lost by 60 to Purdue to basically and underscore like how different those two teams are. I think North Dakota's pretty well coached, and they're better than I thought they were. Their crop of newcomers is decent, and this is a relatively low total as well. If we can get North Dakota to like 60 points, I'll feel decent about it, Matt.
Right. I like that as well, and I'm a big K-State fan. But you're right, K-State laying double digits, especially North Dakota, who's been pretty feisty. The roster is, I think, a lot better than people think. They got a guy, Ethan Igbanugo. I can't say his name correctly, but big piece. He's back. He missed, I think, 2 of their first 3 games. Don't check the pronunciation on that. It's Ethan as I'll call him. Okay, my best bet. Checking the current line, I think it's down to 7.5. Unfortunately, I was hoping to catch it at 8, but I like it anything at 7. I am talking about Stony Brook, headed to Yale. The Ivies have been good. Stony has been frustrating. And they could be down a key player here in Olaimi from Miami. The boomerang transfer basically was a AE's caliber player of the year, went to Miami, had a good season. Now he's back at Stony. But even without him, I think Stony Brook's pound for pound just as talented as Yale, if not more talented. I know there's a big coaching discrepancy. I think Yale plays phenomenally as a group. And that's why they've been so awesome this year. But my handicap is basically I get the team with equal talent catching 7, 8 in what should be a fairly low scoring game. I don't think this is like some crazy up and down affair. The total's at 136. I think that's actually a little bit too high. So yeah, I like the Seawolves to actually play up to the potential. That's my
they've been not this year. They've gotten killed by everybody. Yeah. And Fairfield losing in overtime, Jim, just turned me off.
They had that game won. They blew that game. I think that's like, we're not doing that again. That's going to be an extra motivation factor to that.
Yeah.
Maybe. I feel like the talent equal thing is
too far.
Without Alani, it's not correct.
Okay.
That's where if he was playing, I would be probably all aboard, but I guess the line would be different. So
here you go.
Maybe I just love me some Ja Jenkins too much. All right. Best bets. There you have them, folks. We will tweet out our record. We will be back on Tuesday, I believe, at the regular scheduled time at noon Central, 1 Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific.
Soft Monday slate tomorrow.
Monday slate. And as the season goes on, I think the Monday slates will continuously pretty soft. So good day for us to rest and recover. I will be doing so. Matty Maui has some jet lag cobwebs still lingering in his eyeballs right now. So I need that time off, and we'll use that, come out with a fire show on Tuesday. Until then, Bill 68, plenty of great content. Check it out. Subscribe. Tune in. Thank you again to our fine sponsor, BetRivers. Until we see you Tuesday, good luck.